Everybody. Welcome everybody to another edition of Mind-Boggling Concepts of the Torah. As per usual, don't get too close to the microphone, and we don't want to spread any of those diseases. And what was the other one we do? Put down these sharp objects. We don't want them to hurt themselves as we dive in. We're up to chapter 2, verse 8, line by line through the Torah. Battling our way through. So chapter 2, verse 8. So chapter 2, so it reads like this. Yatah Hashem Elokim, God planted Gan Be'Eden, a garden in Eden, in the east. And there he placed the man which he had formed. Now you lose in the English because it's usually translated as Garden in Eden, or the Garden of Eden. But Eden actually means something. It's not just a name like Stephen, let's just say. It actually means something, and Eden means pleasure. So this is the place which was designed for Adam to exist in the Garden of Eden. But he wasn't, clearly, the Torah makes a point of this, that he wasn't created in Eden. He was created somewhere, and then the Garden of Eden was created, the Garden of Pleasure was created, and he was placed in it. But he wasn't created in it. Now, this is very similar to another experience that the Jewish people were created. It's very interesting because despite what many people think, especially not Jews, think the Jewish people, strangely, were not formed in their homeland. We are the only people on the planet that did not become a people in their country of, you can't say the country of origin, but not their country of destiny. So, the Scottish people come from Scotland, surprisingly enough. And a lot of Pakistani people come from England, surprisingly enough, and a lot of Mexican people come from Mexico, and but the Jewish people don't come from Israel, from the land of Israel. We come from the land of Egypt. That is where we were formed, and we're the only people on the planet to ever be to ever become a people outside of their homeland. Now that's a very interesting phenomena that is unique to Jews, because if you look, I think we might have talked about this at another time. If you look at the dictionary definition of the word nation, you will find it was what defines a nation. So,
language, land, and culture.
Right. That's usually how it's defined. You look up a dictionary, you find a people with a common land, a common language, a common culture, or history, common laws, things like that. Right, you follow? Now, if you go into the really old dictionaries, if you can find one, you'll often find it says except the Jews. In the old dictionary it says except the Jews. Right? I've actually seen it. They don't do that. It's not politically correct to say this anymore. But except the Jews, because the Jews are a nation. We don't have a common land. We don't have a common history. We don't have a common language. We don't have anything much in common at all. So what makes us a nation? The answer is, which is really one of the reasons why for anti-Semitism in the world, is because a common land, common history, and a common culture does not create a nation. I don't know if you remember John Lennon sang a song about this that got ticked off a lot of people. So it was a song called Imagine. He said, imagine no borders to separate us, right? And so what he was saying, I don't know whether he really appreciated what he was saying, but what he was saying is that if the only thing that defines us is the commonality of the dirt we stand on, then there is nothing that links us whatsoever, except for the fact that we're not anybody else. In other words, what separates a Frenchman from a German or an Englishman is nothing except that they're not on the same piece of dirt. Otherwise, they're exactly the same.
Is that why, like in the olden days, when they would, conquer lands, they would take people and migrate them to a different land so that they wouldn't have a reason to fight for the motherland?
Right. That's what the Talmud says. That's what Sanherib did. That he moved everybody around so that nobody felt an affinity to the country, the land that they were on, so they wouldn't defend it. Right. So the Jewish people are the only nation on the planet. We are the only people that are truly a nation, because we identify with each other despite the fact that we don't have any commonality whatsoever in terms of these superficial things, that is.
Yeah, but that's because our commonality is not physical, it's spiritual.
Exactly. Right. In the same way that, if you have a child, or the same way you might have a great-grandparent who you never met, or great-great-great-great-grandparent who you never met, who didn't speak the same language as you, who didn't live in the same country as you, yet you identify as part of you, part of who you are. You identify with them because the connection you have to them is not really a physical one; it's a spiritual one, or a ephemeral one more. So anyway, we digressed a lot. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
If I could ask this question, because I just had this insight and I thought, wow, that's interesting. The place that we ended up like becoming a nation was the exact opposite of the nation, right? Like we were supposed to represent a positive spirituality, and they represented a very negative spirituality.
That's true. That's a very good one.
Was that, like, what is the significance of that? Is there like some kind of Kabbalah or something? Why did it have to be that way?
Yeah. Well, why do we have to be created? I don't know if this is the reason, but one of the advantages of being created outside of our homeland is that we can survive outside of the homeland. If we were created in the land of Israel, we would not have been able to survive outside of the land of Israel. It would have been part and parcel of how we are. So,
because of the way we would view ourselves. In other words, because we were all together in Egypt and we all went through something together and went out together, and it was more about shared experiences rather than some physical object or physical something, like land.
Or the purpose for which we are, the purpose for which we exist, what we stand for. So in the same way that Adam was not created in the Garden of Eden, and therefore human beings can survive outside the Garden of Eden. But it is for that purpose that we exist. Now, that brings us to another very important point, which is a very important principle of existence, and it's the bane of every rich person's life, every rich parent's life, and that is anything. It's a physical. It's a principle of existence. Anything that is not owned will be destroyed.
Does that come from Fum Sara Agra?
Why did you say that? What do you mean?
Because more effort, the more reward. So you earn it, and then you'll be able to keep it.
That's true. That's a very good point, but it's not quite the same point that I'm making, but it's tangential. And that is anything that you do not earn, you will destroy. Right? There are no exceptions. If you don't earn it, you will destroy it. Now, the two great examples of this throughout history are one we're just about to read now, the Garden of Eden. Right?
That reminds me of that. Sorry, Rabbi. Reminds me of the video that you sent us about the trust fund kids.
Right. Everyone should watch this video. It's called Born Rich. Right. It's a story of a documentary made by one of the great grandchildren or grandchildren of Johnson and Johnson, and it's a story of all these kids who are born into these trust funds and never have to worry about money the rest of their lives, and how it's not the blessing you think it is, or most people think it is, right? And they live absolutely horrendous lives of misery. It's a total disaster. So anyway, because if you don't earn it, this is the principle. If you don't earn it, you will destroy it. Right? But the two great examples of history is one, the Garden of Eden, and what's the other one? It was Adam didn't do anything to earn the Garden of Eden, and therefore everybody asked the question, why did he mess it up? Why couldn't he not mess it up? And they're just completely missing the point. The question really is, what took him so long?
So long to mess it up?
Yeah. In other words, it's inevitable. It's not possible for Adam not to mess it up. It's not possible. And the second time in world history where someone got something that they didn't earn was, dun drum roll now.
Maybe the Babel, the Tower of Babel, and they had one nation, one language, unity.
That's not the example I'm thinking of. I think there's a more stark version story like that. Give up? Mount Sinai. Right? In fact, the rabbis say that just like the Garden of Eden, when the Jewish people were standing at Mount Sinai, they achieved a level akin to Adam in the Garden of Eden. And what they're telling you is, just like Adam in the Garden of Eden was given just one mitzvah, don't eat from the Eitz Hadas, don't eat from the tree of life, so too the Jewish people had one rule: don't worship idols. And just like Adam did the one thing he was told not to do, so too the Jewish people did the one thing they were told not to do. Right? When they're standing at Mount Sinai and they received the Torah, they achieved immortality. And worshiping the golden calf, that's the whole thing up and
Achieve immortality?
they achieve immortality, exactly.
Because they said Na'aseh v'nishma?
Because they wasn't only that, but
because they accepted the Torah?
Because they accepted the Torah. That's right, exactly. And therefore, now they did last a little longer than Adam. They went 40 days. So they did a little better. But nevertheless, it was inevitable. So that leads us to the obvious question, which is, what was the point then?
What was the point of giving?
Right. In other words, if it's obvious, it's inevitable that Adam is going to mess up and the Jewish people are going to mess up, then why set them up for this disaster?
Sorry, I missed a little bit. Could you?
Sure. If the Jewish people and Adam, in other words, if it's a principle of existence that if you don't earn something, you're going to destroy it. So then why did God put Adam in the Garden of Eden when he didn't earn it?
Because you need something to strive for.
Exactly. Like all humanity is striving for the Garden of Eden. It's a fascinating thing. No matter how good existence becomes, intuitively, all human beings know that there's something better. Right? We live in a time of unprecedented bounty. Right? Humanity today has never had it this good. And we're completely frustrated and trying to design all kinds of systems to make it better. Right? And these, just for simple, they call communism or the general this insanity called woke and all kinds of other things that just, right? Where are these things coming from? What right? They end up destroying everything, but they touch people because intuitively people know that it could be better than this. This isn't the end. In other words, a monkey. I don't know if they have. I don't know if there's zoos in South Africa, but if a wild monkey happens to fall into a monkey cage in the zoo in Johannesburg, I don't know if they have one, right? It thinks it died and went to heaven. Right? A monkey in a zoo in Johannesburg, as opposed to a monkey in the wild, right, doesn't have to worry about anything. Right? It gets 3 meals a day, all the bananas it can eat. It's having a ball. Right? So similarly, a human being born into, as Warren Buffett likes to say, a human being who wins the ovarian lottery and is born into a family in America or the Western world, in pretty much any just, you don't have to be born into a Warren Buffett family. You're born into any family in the Western world. You won the ovarian lottery. Yeah, you're doing great, and yet people are incredibly frustrated that it's not better than this. It's a shame they don't teach history in school, because anybody who gets some semblance of what the history of humanity has been knows that it can't get much better than this. And yet people are incredibly frustrated. So why are they frustrated? Because when Adam was kicked out of the Garden of Eden, he told his children, and they their children, this has been passed down throughout history, that no matter how good the roast beef is, you can't beat the Garden of Eden. But he didn't say it just like that. It was in everything that he spoke about, everything he lived with, everything that he was. Like, you can't compare. It's sort of like the butler and the baker in the story of Joseph. You can't compare living a life in the royal palace, which is where they live, to one day, and then the next day living in a dungeon, in a prison. No matter how good the prison is, it's never going to be, can't make up for the life in the palace. Right? Everything that they're just going to be missing it. That's human beings, and that's the Jewish people. We intuit that there is a experience that we achieve immortality, and we're striving for that relationship again, that reality again, that position again. Is that making sense? Okay, very good.
I keep having to go off and come back on. Sorry, there's something a bit.
No problem.
So
You were missed.
that's why you keep losing me.
Good. It's good to have you back.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a good place to start. Next week we'll go into the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. That's a whole new discussion to be continued. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, thank you. Next time I have to get on a better internet. Yeah, thank you.
No problem.